This year, I set my biggest garden goal ever, to grow 650 pounds of produce from my small urban yard. Now that everything is weighed and logged, the truth is I grew 520 pounds of produce. Not quite the goal, but still a huge improvement from the 445 pounds I grew the year prior. All right, now let's talk about how the harvest actually played out. Because that 520 pounds of produce didn't come from everything performing equally. There were some crops that absolutely carried the garden this year, some that were steady but not spectacular, others were okay, I guess, and some absolutely didn't carry their weight. And there were 2 crops that absolutely failed this year, and one of them still kind of stings. Instead of just rattling numbers off crop by crop, we're going to tier rank them. S tier being superstars to the F tier, total failures this year. This ranking isn't just about pounds. It's about how each crop behaved in my small garden, how much space it took up, how much effort I needed to put in, and if it actually earned its spot. All right, let's get into the tiers. Paste tomatoes are S tier, no question. This crop alone produced 180 pounds. Grown vertically, pruned to a single stem, and I had enough to make a year's worth of pasta sauce, salsa, tomato soup, and some freezer meals for my family. This crop absolutely earned its place. Potatoes land in A tier. They produce 68 pounds, which sounds great until you remember they don't play well with others. Because you have to dig them up to harvest them, they need a bed all to themselves. They are dependable and filling, but they are a commitment. Cucumbers, also S tier. One plant produced 26 pounds, double what produced last year. And it wasn't even in my best soil. No drama, no babysitting, just a steady producer all summer. Before we get to the crop that failed so badly this year, it alone explains a huge part of the missing 130 pounds. Let me show you the steady middle. Green beans sit in B tier. The birds had their fair share this season, but I still got 22 pounds. Annoying? Yes. Resilient? Also yes. Lettuce falls into the C tier. It gave me just under 9 pounds. While I will always grow it, it is light and it is timing dependent. It matters, it just doesn't move the scale much. Carrots earned an A tier ranking this year. They produced almost 47 pounds compared to the barely 8 pounds I got last year. Once I nailed the timing and their spacing, they showed me what they were capable of. Apples are D tier, at least for now. The trees produced just over 8 pounds, and it's the first real harvest I've gotten from them. It's not quite impressive yet, but they are a long-term investment. Hot peppers, specifically jalapenos, land in the B tier. They produced almost 15 pounds, which is impressive for how little space they take up. They aren't heavy, but they are very useful. Broccoli sits in C tier. It gave me about 16 pounds, and I enjoy growing it, but it's not a high returning crop in terms of weight. And the next few crops are exactly why I won't hit 650 pounds unless I change my approach. Garlic is E tier for me. It produced just over 4 pounds, it took up space 4 months, and it dealt with pest pressure. I like eating garlic, I don't like growing garlic, and I won't be planting it again. Cherry tomatoes land in B tier. They produced almost 18 pounds and they are incredibly reliable. They just aren't pantry anchors like paste tomatoes are. Summer squash, zucchini, is an F tier this year. Normally, one zucchini plant would be enough to feed the whole neighborhood, but I snapped the stem of my plant early, replanted it, the seeds didn't germinate. I ended the season with 0 pounds of zucchini. It happens, it still hurts. Melons fall into the C tier. One plant gave me just over 7 pounds. Not huge numbers, but the flavor, unbelievable. Turnips surprised me this year and landed themselves in the B tier. They produced almost 10 pounds. They filled the gap later in the fall season, and they required no effort from me. Winter squashes, so your butternut and your acorn squashes, landed in the E tier this year. It produced about 9 pounds, and this one's on me. I planted them after I had harvested out the broccoli, and I don't think there was enough nutrition left in the soil. Big vines, long season, and small return. Sweet peppers finished in the F tier. They produced under 4 pounds after blossom and rot wiped out most of my fruit. I had big expectations, very little return. When you zoom out and look at the tiers, the story makes sense. A few crops carried the year. Some showed up just enough to matter, and others explained why I finished the year at 520 pounds instead of 650. Because honestly, I picked it a little randomly. Last year, my harvest total came in at 445 pounds, and I knew this season I wanted to push harder. I wanted to set a goal that was ambitious but still realistic for a small space gardener. I looked at my yard and thought about what I grew in previous seasons and said, 650 pounds, challenging, but seems doable. It wasn't about perfection or trying to be fully self-sufficient. It was simply about growing more food, more varieties, more confidence, and more security for my family. And then there's something that almost every Canadian family is feeling right now. Food is expensive. Many families are spending $17,000 a year on groceries. So even a small amount of homegrown food really makes a difference. But it wasn't just about cost. I want to feed my family food that is fresh, nutritious, and grown with care. Food that hasn't sat on trucks for days, food that tastes like how it's supposed to. So that's how the 650-pound goal came to be. Half experimentation, half challenge, and a whole lot of passion. If you garden in a small space too, I'd love to hear what carried your garden this year.